We'll need a gurney and a hangar bay. ETA 19.
Death at the gates again. Howling my name. Come on in, old buddy. Sorry I made you wait.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Wolfenstein II I Am Death Incarnate no upgrade walkthrough. This is still technically the level Under Siege, but we're going to call this Under Siege 2. Because Wolfenstein does this interesting thing where the levels are quite short and punchy, and they have a few successions of them under the same name, and because the title's so long I can't really put the full titles, which is kind of unfortunate. But here we are picking up our Tomahawk, as I'm going to be calling it. It is the axe that you're going to be using for both utility and for murdering Nazis. And we're going to be moving through the vents here. This guy up in front is teaching you how to do takedowns, but I wanted to shoot him to see if an alarm would set off here. And as you see, nothing happens. I was just in a bit of a funny mood. And the reason I was in a funny mood, guys, is this is the second time I've recorded this. So I was recording this walkthrough originally with OBS, and for some reason, the Vulcan technology that is to do with this game, I'm not even sure what it means, I've just done a lot of Googling, has issues with OBS, so I couldn't do game capture. It wouldn't let me do hardly any of the captures I tried to do, so I ended up having to do display capture, and I tested it and it seemed okay, and I recorded for an hour, and it recorded a paused screen. You could hear all the audio of me shooting Nazis and doing all the cutscenes and everything, but the screen was paused on the recording device, and I have no idea why, so I lost a bunch of time where I could have been working on things, and I got really frustrated. And in the end, I'm using the NVIDIA Shadowplay, which I'm not the biggest fan of because I've had issues with it in the past, but it's all I can really do, and it's really unfortunate. But this room here can be completely skipped. On the first recording I killed everybody, on this recording I'm like, fuck it, let's just skip it. Pick up the hatchets that I just picked up there, they're going to be really, really useful. You can carry a few of them, and then when you upgrade your perk by doing certain actions, you can carry even more. And this game is literally going to be stealthing through, crouching, throwing tomahawks at people, and then when it kicks off, hoping you don't get hit too much. That's the game. And as much as I've told you that Death Incarnate's really difficult, which it is in the grand scheme of things, it isn't too bad, because there's only about 4 tough bits in the game, and those 4 parts are all the forced encounters where you have to fight. Whenever you have to fight in this game, shit gets really scary. But for the most, you don't have to. But of course, if you make a mistake, shit gets really scary. So you want to try and approach everything with stealth in mind, because it's just going to keep you alive, but the moment things hit the fan is where the difficulty truly shines. Because right now, I have 50 HP and 200 armor. The reason for this is because Blazkowicz is actually ill at this point, so his HP is not as good, but he's wearing the power armor, which is the suit that Caroline wore, and it gives him increased armor. So the trade-off here is, we can wear a lot of armor, but our HP will not go to the proper threshold just yet. Wait on top of this box, smack this guy as he comes around the corner. If he sets off an alarm, you're probably better off reloading the autosave, because it gets really hectic in this room. There's one guy to your left coming up, take him out, and then all we're going to do is sneak up the stairs, go through the vent, and completely skip the next room of enemies, because once you hit the button and get the cutscene, it will completely despawn all the enemies. Follow my path, it's safe, I've tested it several times, good stuff. But later on in the game, when we do get fixed, we're going to be able to have 100 HP and 100 armor, but it's all kind of the same. Because right now, if I get shot by about 4 bullets, I will die. And you're probably wondering, what's the point in having 200 armor if it strips it so quickly? And I honestly couldn't tell you what it's about, guys. And that's what makes the permadeath difficulty above this one even more ridiculous, because this difficulty is the hardest base difficulty for any permadeath difficulty I've come across. And I did hardcore on Dead Space 2, I've tried the Deus Ex difficulty, I tried the Thief difficulty with the Iron Man modifier, I tried a bunch of them. There's 2 guys here, shoot them, run past them and hit the button. If you sprint past this guy, he might not shoot you, but the guy behind you can. So as long as you hit this, you'll get the checkpoint, and then you'll be able to move back through here, and we'll be introduced to our first diesel enemy. But I've tried pretty much all of the permadeath difficulties, and this is the hardest base game for them, by far, because you die so fast in this game, it's kind of preposterous. But run into this room, come up to the stairs, and then sit in this wonderful little crawling space here. So, the AI in Wolfenstein II is terrible. For the most, it's completely functional. At other times, it will see you and know where you are when it physically shouldn't, and it's really frustrating. But fundamentally, it's really stupid. So, now that this enemy has seen us, he's going to move up the stairs. I'm going to pop out of this vent to make him see us again, and he's going to walk over to the vent, and they didn't program him with a response to get you out of a vent. So, I'm just going to sit here and shoot him in the balls, and he's going to die without him ever touching me and ever being a threat. And this will work on every single type of enemy in this game. If you can find a space where you can go into it, which is underneath them, if they cannot get to a level where they can look at you with their eyes, they will not shoot you, and you can use this to kill all the bosses in the game. It is absolutely broken, and I'm glad to be sharing it with you if you didn't understand how this works. Later on, you're going to get a laser weapon that kills these enemies in about 2 to 3 shots depending on how you hit them, and then they become easy anyway. But just for the purposes of this first encounter, look how safe that strategy is. Fantastic, right? And then we get the laser gewehr, which is a charge heavy weapon which can be dropped. And this is a pretty cool tool, but it isn't as powerful as you think it would be. It takes a little bit extra damage to hit the enemies on this next sequence coming up, so be very careful. So once you melt this door, there's going to be a ton of Nazis that swarm at you, and there's going to be another one of those diesel guys. So you want to just kind of aim down here, wait for the reticle to go red on moving targets. Just a word of warning, the reticle will also go red to tell you that you can shoot through the particular piece of cover you're aiming at, so it can look like there's enemies there and there's not. But once you run out of the juice on this, go and recharge it to your right, and then there's going to be a bunch of enemies posted up, kill them, and then we can get to the next stealth section. But for those curious, this is being played on the PC. It is running at 144Hz, 144 frames. The frame rate, everything is pretty much on ultra, and the frame rate fluctuates between 150, 160 frames to anywhere where about 110, depending on where it is. And for the most, it stays consistently high, which is really nice. I've never felt like the game was ever slowing down or having trouble. Really, really smooth experience. I am playing on an elevated FOV, that's why the game looks a little bit different for you than it might do for me. I'm playing on max FOV so I can see more, it enables me to have a better periphery, and I just prefer it because it's my preference. And I think that's about all you really need to know as far as the PC specs. Obviously I'm using mouse and keyboard, it comes in handy if you like it. Everything I'm doing here will translate to the consoles because a lot of these strategies don't involve having to aim very much, so it's not a problem. But Tomahawk this guy. Pick up your Tomahawk. The detection on picking up Tomahawks is one of the worst features of the game, and it frustrates me to no end. Kill that guy with a Tomahawk, and then be careful walking up here. You want to crouch here because there's going to be a diesel enemy, and depending on what this guy does, depending on how awkward this next sequence is, he should walk over there, look out there, and never turn around. But I can tell you right now, guys, I've had him turn around when he feasibly couldn't turn around and there was no reason to turn around. So if you get that, I feel your pain. That's the AI being a piece of shit. What can you do? I'm not entirely sure. Sometimes it's better to just reload an older save and then come back through the door and get him on a better pattern. But suffice it to say, sometimes these areas just fuck up, and this next one is a great example. We've just done a bunch of stealth areas, right? Well, these enemies now know where we are, because we threw that grenade earlier, I'm assuming. So they're all going to be walking around on a random pattern, and depending on what the random pattern is, depends on where they are and how much difficulty you're going to have here. So there's a couple of strategies you can do. You can adapt and just react to what they're doing, or you can wait for them to settle down. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and they'll go back to their original pattern. So what I'm doing here is I'm waiting to see the stormtrooper that's on his way around, and on this game when you increase the FOV, for some reason it stretches the edge of the screen, so you're going to see a little bit of warping on the edge of the screen, and it lets me look around corners, which is kind of really weird. This game has a lean feature that you can utilise, and it also has adaptive cover, which is dynamic, where it will aim out to cover for you and do all these kind of crazy tilts. I hate all that shit and I never use it, so it can be really useful in not taking hits and playing defensively, but for the most, it's just kind of annoying, so I'm not going to be partaking with it. Instead, I'm going to opt for movement and stealth, and hopefully you'll have the same success that I will have. But the only thing left to do with the video here, guys, is to kill 2 or 3 enemies that are on this balcony. So be very careful rushing into this room, because I've died here before. But pepper them, and then the only thing left to do is get to the escape hatch and end the mission. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.